Welcome to Off Track, the motorcycle racing podcast, brought to you in proud partnership with J&S Accessories and B-Moto Motorcycle Insurance. Hello and welcome to Off Track, the motorcycle racing podcast. I'm your host, Dave Neal, proudly sponsored this week by Fireplace New Mills. Thanks to our great mate, Kev Robinson, for his help this weekend. Delighted to say, let's go around this way. Richard Cooper, Peter Hickman, Josh Brookes, FHO Racing. Gentlemen, welcome to our podcast.
How are we doing?
Thank you.
All right, mate. Thanks
for having us.
Thank you for your patience. We've had a bit of time setting up for this evening.
I know, I'm hungry. I've not eaten yet. What's happening?
A man of your standards.
I was waiting for you.
Do you know what? I'm grateful for that, Pete. I really am. I can be really nice to you with the questions now.
Thanks.
That's all right.
Can you delete a couple that you were going to ask?
There is one, but I'm not going to ask it. If we start with you, Coops.
Yeah.
Seeing you were thrust into this at the last minute.
Yeah.
Welcome back, mate.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's good to be back in the paddock. Like, I dabbled in it last year, and I had no real ambition of coming back to the paddock full time. And then the BMW F900 R Cup got announced, and like, it's a little bit of me. You know, I kind of enjoy that quirky bike riding, situation. And if I'm honest with you, it was quite difficult to get a full time ride in the championship through one reason or another. And then I'm friends with Pete, like, let's say, off from racing. I dropped Pete a message and he says, oh, you need to ask Daz. So I dropped Daz a message and he says, you need to ask Faye. And it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we can do something. And this was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, they had a bike delivered on the Friday. I turned up, chucked a team t-shirt on, had a picture, left them to it. Bike was built in a week or so's time, and we rolled out for the first time literally this morning, and luckily for me it's been dry today, so the first run on the bike has been pretty seamless. Really, it's been a joy to ride.
And you were fastest.
Yeah, I think obviously I have quite a big target on my bike because of my experience, and I don't mind that, in a way. Like, I hope to bring the championship on. Like, of course I'm in it to win it, but equally there has to be the best rider, if that makes sense. I've been in the situation when I was a younger rider, stepping up to, let's say, super bikes. I use Shaky as an example. I didn't moan that Shaky was in BSB. I thought I've got to try and beat him, and eventually I did. And I think this championship's like a bit like that for the rest of the guys. They see me. For sure, the pace today has ramped up massively compared to the test yesterday. And is that because I'm out there pushing the pace on? I think it is. And is the race going to be easy this weekend? Probably not. So, yeah, I'm smiling. I did like 40 laps today. I didn't pull in once, and for me, that's what I need out of bike racing at the minute.
Nice to have you back on a full-time championship as well. So you say you dabbled a couple of cameos last year, which was pretty successful in what you did then. It's like, oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have you back, mate.
Yeah, I was lucky enough that both my visits back to BSB last year was with two great teams. And that makes a big difference. So, firstly, the Build Bay Suzuki guys, I rolled out on a bike that I'd won a championship on 2 years previous. And then secondly, on the Yamaha in the Supersport class, a bike that, to be quite honest, is a joy to ride, like it really is. And me coming from riding thousands most of my career to jump on a 600, it was quite easy for me to adapt. So those two little dabbles in BSB last year it gave me like some confidence that I don't think we ever think we've lost it, but it is still there. The fire in the belly is still there, and to come back and be here, I still want to do it.
That's the good thing, especially after coming back from such a horrendous injury as well, and the times that you spent in rehab and coming back, and the fitness and coming back to BSB in a one-mate BMW series. It's kind of made for you, isn't it? But if somebody's going to beat you to that championship, it's on merit.
The injury, I don't like to touch on that too much. Like, at the time, I did think that it was done and dusted. Like, I thought, well, that's racing over, and I almost accepted that. And I took myself away from racing, away from BSB, stepped away for a year. and it was a bit longer in the year actually. In fact, the first time I rode again, my leg still wasn't quite right, but like we just persevere as races as we do. And we're now 6 months further on, and it is better. Like I can do more things. It's never going to be perfect, but riding a bike like this, it's not as strenuous. These guys on super bikes, I was out there watching today, and it just looks like mentally it looks hard work. Whereas I'm on the opposite. I can just sort of relax into my riding. So, I'm pretty happy with where we are at the minute. So continue as we are, and it'll all be good.
Excellent. Fingers crossed for the rest of the weekend. We'll come back to you shortly when we talk about the Northwest 200 as well. Hickey, mate,
Hiya.
you got a fast teammate.
Yeah. I've been asking for. Well, I think I've always asked for a fast teammate. Really, it's. I've had this discussion already with Josh beforehand. You want somebody to push you on, a bit like what Richard's saying about the rest of the field in the F900 class. You need a good target, and I've always asked in every team I've ever been in. I've been teammates with Leon Haslam and James Ellison in the same year and in the same team, and it was everyone thinks it makes you the underdog. It does to some degree, but then it's also you've got that benchmark and that baseline, and you've got all that data to work off that you can then learn from and make yourself better, and that's the way I've always kind of seen it. And yeah, having two-time British Superbike champion certainly is a step up from where we've been in the past, and that's not to be obviously negative to anyone that I've been teammates with, but in the last I don't know how many years now, since 17, since I've been riding the BMW, I think out of all the races I've done, I've been beaten maybe 3 times by my teammate. So that's a lot of races that I've been the fastest rider in the team, which is great in one respect and really bad in another. And I'm kind of hoping that Josh is going to give me a good run for my money, and so far it looks like he is. So, and that for the team to go forwards and myself to go forwards, you need that. You need that push. You need someone to be kind of keeping you honest as such. Not that you're never not trying 110%, but if someone's doing something better than you are, and then you can learn off that person, everyone's a winner in my eyes.
It's only early days, and we're only sort of day one here at Silverstone for day one proper. But what are the benefits you've seen already for Josh being in the team?
Not even just from today, actually. We've obviously not done a lot of testing. We're properly on the back foot. We've got a bike that's probably more different than people are giving us credit for. We know there's not been huge changes, but from a superbike point of view, there is a lot of changes for us. Engine specs completely changed, gearboxes completely changed, chassis slightly different, swing arms completely different. The aerodynamics are night and day different. And from what we've been doing together already as a team, we've worked together already, and Josh has kind of gone off in one direction, I've gone off in another to try and come back to what is the best for the bike and for the team. So already I think we're both really honest people, and I think that's a big plus. We don't bullshit our way through anything. If we either disagree with something, or if we can't tell of something, we will say it and say, I'm not sure, or I don't know. It's quite good to have somebody that will also say that, rather than just either agreeing with you or whatever, or making some bullshit up just to make them feel better. If you have a straight talking honest person, it's always better.
I don't think they're much more honest than Josh.
No, definitely not.
But it's a spade's a spade, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, sometimes it gets you in trouble, but I feel like in the long game, in the short game, it brings you trouble. But in the long game, you always end up better off just saying the truth, because I haven't got a good enough memory to remember all my lies. So I've just stuck with give it to people between the eyes, and they won't like it at first, but in the long run, you'll be better off for it.
I think that's a great way to look at it. You've got to be a great liar to do that. I can't.
Yeah.
He's
you have a good memory to be a great liar.
Great, that's the one. It's been a long day already.
Yeah.
How have you settled into the team? New crew chief as well in Mark Woodage. It's
new everything.
New everything, yeah.
Yeah, new bikes, new team, new brand, new teammate, new crew chief. Everything's new. I think tyres are much the same, but even they've changed a little. No, it's been good, really. It's probably one of the easiest entries to a team that I've had, and to reflect on what you've already sort of mentioned with Pete, I agree with everything, that having two fast riders in the team, I've been lucky to always be in top teams. So unfortunately, being in a top team always ends up you with a top teammate. So I've always had that situation. We haven't always had the same setup. Let's say we haven't always agreed on the direction of the bike, but it's always had a teammate that's meant you can never relax. You always, as soon as you do, they've outpaced you in a session or passed you in a turn even. You know what I mean? It's like you've always got to be on your game. And then and I agree with the idea that if Pete and I work together, then our experience, for one, is going to bring the bike on. But if we communicate in the best way we can, and like we said, no bullshit, just call it what it is, we'll improve the bike, improve the team, and hopefully, my ideal situation is that Pete and I are 1 and 2, and him and I can work out on the racetrack in which order that's going to be. You know what I mean? That's far better for me, for us to have that situation, than me come in 6th, 7th, 8th and be 5 or 6 places ahead of my teammate. That's not a success. Yeah, okay, you beat your teammate, but there's no sense of achievement in that. You know, you've got to be on the podium at minimum to crack a smile, and even then you can find a reason why a better result or a better
motorcycle
situation.
Racing, you always find a reason not to, because if you're not on the top step, and you're all attest to that, you're not here to ride around and make up the numbers.
So to answer the question, it's been really nice. I mean, we're only at the first round. We've only had 1 day of in the first round, and so it's early days. But yeah, it's been very comfortable and inviting, warm environment to join into. So I'm pleased.
Does that put you on the front foot now for the rest of the season? Going over the last couple of seasons, it's not been easy. That's well documented. But now, does this feel like a full reset for Josh Brookes, ready to fight for the title again?
It is. It certainly is a reset because of all the things I've just explained. I knew everything, but I don't feel like I'm looking for a new Josh Brookes. I feel like the results of last year were a result of the circumstances I was in. You know what I mean? I've still got a great relationship with PBM. I still think a Ducati's a great motorcycle. I've gone and said hello to everybody in the PBM team, in fact, because they're all friends of mine. You know, it's not people sometimes, I guess in a way people get misled, because sometimes there is sort of like a parting of with a team on a bad terms. You know what I mean? But that wasn't the case.
No.
It was parting because the results weren't achievable, and that was, I guess, if you ask different people, they'll have a different opinion of why that was. But ultimately, the facts are that we never fell out with each other, and we're all still friends, but we can't persevere with the results not coming. That's what we're all here to do. So we parted way on a results basis, and I feel like it's not me trying to find peace in myself or reset myself or find clarity in my mind. You know what I mean? That I don't feel like that's necessary, and I don't feel like that's. Although people might say that or think it, you know what I mean, or have an opinion of that, I don't personally feel that way. I just feel like, you know, sometimes you got to move on and find another way to do the job. So it's more like that. It's restarting because we're on new material, and find the challenge in this.
I think that's important to get across, because people do say, oh, well, it was this, that and the other, but it's a results-based game. And it's a really small paddock, as you guys all know. So if the results aren't there, something has to change, because if you do what you always did, you get what you always got. So something has to change.
Exactly.
And I'm excited to see what you both can do for this season, especially on the 23 version of the BMW M1000RR. But also, we've got the roads as well. All three of you. You're doing the Northwest?
Oh, yes.
Can you say what you're doing?
No, we can.
Because I kind of took you by surprise there, Coops.
Yeah.
We were just discussing it, actually.
Yeah, we was talking about it, because it's quite funny. We sit here, like me as like an F900 Cup rider, and the two boys are Superbike riders, but come May, we're all we all line up on the same grid again, you know,
Exactly.
in very different circumstances to what BSB is. I currently have 2 bikes sorted, a 600 and the Super Twin, but yet to get anything in paper on any big bike, which like is quite a surprise to people because, you know, I podiumed the Superbike race twice last year and put the stocker on the podium. Yet I have nothing to ride. I'm not too worried about that, in all honesty. The bikes I have are really good for the other classes. And if I have to watch the big race, then, you know, I'll enjoy my time watching the big race type thing. To be honest, Pete gave us all a chance last year by destroying his tyres anyway. So I was gifted the podium there. But like, people don't understand how physical it is for me, being my size, to actually hold on to the bike for that week. Like, it is so draining for me to like be focused for that long when I don't ride a superbike all the year. So Pete goes and he puts his road settings in his superbike and away he goes. I jump on, let's say what last year was Christian Idden's BSB bike, and I'm like, right, okay, I've got to think how to ride this bike again. So because I've stepped away from BSB and my brain is like not at superbike pace, you know, I'm not too fussed. I haven't got those bikes to ride. Whereas 600 and the Twin, like my stature, like my experience at the Northwest now, I'm quite looking forward to actually like seeing what's around me rather than it all being a blur. Because like, you know, Tuesday practice, whatever, you're first out on that superbike and you're like, what is going on here? It's just like stones flying everywhere and you have a little look up and then get tucked in again. Whereas for me, like the 600 with the first run out, and I know I'll just be like, right, look my marker, there it is, you know. And I'm quite looking forward to that. You know, it's for me, it's as much as a holiday as it is a race meeting at the minute, and it really is that. You know, I enjoy the week. My parents go, girlfriend comes, I take the dog. Like, I had such a great time last year that I was like, well, you know, if I have to sit out and watch these 2 big races, cool.
So be it.
Yeah, so be it. On the other hand, if somebody does come along with a very good competitive superbike, then I will consider it.
One competitive ride for one Richard Cooper, please. Just to save him having a holiday. It means he's got to work for a living.
Yeah.
Get some time in there, mate. That's the difference.
Yeah, no. So I'm pretty. Yeah, it will soon be May. That's the scary thing. Like, the Northwest is so early. You know, the TT is the mid part of the year, so everyone's sort of waiting for it. But then the Northwest is like the first week of May. You know, we're the 2 rounds into the BSB and we're already on the ferry getting over to do the first road race of the year. And it's almost like it's soon forgotten as well. Because obviously, as soon as the TT happens, focus is on that, and everyone's like kind of forgot about the Northwest. But for me, it's like it's become a higher up in the pecking order of things to do in a year, like Northwest, BSB, Goodwood, all those things. Like, they are priorities in where it is. Whereas before, it used to be like, right, got to win a championship, whether it's super stock or whether it's super sport. You know, focus on that. Now it's just like, right, where's the next like enjoyment week or weekend?
You sounding mature, Coops.
I am 40.
It comes with age, doesn't it? With age comes maturity. In a lot of cases, not all the cases.
Why are you looking at us?
No, I'm just
He's looking at you, not me.
bringing everybody into the conversation, Josh. That's it.
Oh, okay.
Pete, Northwest 200 for you as well?
Yeah.
Looking forward to it?
Yeah, it should be. I need to turn my luck around at the Northwest, really. It's been a place where I have been fast. I've won a couple of Superstock races, but everything else just seems to go wrong for me, to be honest. In fact, I've had a Supersport podium as well. But yeah, it's just a place that doesn't bring me any luck for whatever reason. And last year was no different, really. You know, I was obviously super fast. I broke the lap record, which was really nice in the first race on the Saturday. And then, funnily enough, I was actually right behind Josh, just thinking about slipstreaming him and trying to outbrake him down into university when, obviously, we had a rather huge tyre issue, which ended up being not just myself. Obviously, at the time, I had no idea what was going on. Managed to pull over safely and stop. 197 mile an hour I was doing at the time that the tyre let go. So I was pretty lucky, to be honest. Stopped, got off the bike. I actually thought it was an engine or gearbox. I had no idea what had gone on, just a massive vibration. And then when I got off, obviously I realised it was the tyre, and it was one of them things. Do you know, there was a lot of fuss made up about it, and I understand why. It's a dangerous thing to happen, but actually tyre delamination is quite a common thing, and actually at the Northwest it's probably more common than it is anywhere else because of the nature of the track and the way of the high speed or maintained high speed upright is unusual, even more so than the TT. At the TT you don't do that for so long, you tend to lean over a lot more. But actually it happens in the Northwest quite a lot. There's always bits missing out of tyres and chunks gone and all the rest of it. Obviously last year there was a big problem with whatever batch had come out. It is what it is. I didn't really think too much of it. The team decided to pull me out of the rest of the event pretty much straight away. Dunlop then obviously pulled everyone else off the final grid. They actually did run in the Superstock race, but everyone pulled out of the final race, and then just one of them things really. It just added to my list of what else can go wrong at the Northwest for me. I've had some really unusual things happen, you know. I mean, that was one of the few races in Superbike that I've actually got away at the front, which was nice. Another time that I got away at the front, I had a stone, well, it must have been a rock more than a stone. Quite often you hold radiators at the Northwest with the stones. I actually hold a silicon hose, which is near impossible. Samco hoses are really strong and robust, and it went, whatever piece of rock went through the fairing and through the silicon hose in a position where I was possibly able to win a Superbike race, and that was only a couple of years ago as well. There's just always something seems to happen to me at the Northwest, but hoping to turn that look around this year and give Glenn something to think about.
I think somebody else needs to win. For sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree completely. But I
need to sort the home hero out.
So we need to have a really strong word with him in that respect. It's a bit boring now, isn't it? Let's be fair. It's getting boring. I mean, fair play, he pedals it round, but it's like, oh, come on.
Nah, he's done a mega job, and he's done it.
No, he has. That's right.
He's
Take
done it on 3
nothing
different
away
bikes.
from him.
Obviously, same team for 2 years, and a completely different team the next year. You know, he's been the man.
That's why you haven't got any luck, because he's taking it on.
Yeah, he's been taking it on, and that's fair play. That's the way it goes sometimes.
It's exactly right.
Yeah, we're here to sort that out this year.
I'm looking forward to that. Josh, what about you for the Northwest?
Yeah, I'm signed up. If people are watching and don't know, I'm doing the Superstock and Superbike at Northwest, and looking forward to it. I've had my actual original entry into the Northwest was 2013, but that event was abandoned because of weather. So I didn't technically do any proper racing, but I did do the newcomers lap and some practices, and it was always in wet conditions as well. So I didn't feel like I actually did my debut properly. So then the following year in 14, I come back and was able to set the lap record in the Superbike race. And I was leading it, but just made the smallest error at Mathers Cross chicane, and went onto the grass, and sort of you had to I was carrying like a bit of speed, but it didn't feel fast compared with some of the areas of the circuit. So sort of had to gently get off the grass and back onto the track, and you can't in any kind of top level racing, you can't afford to give that much time away. No. So Michael Dunlop took over the lead and won the race. So I got second, but I managed to get the lap record and lead for some time before I made that error. So I've had a really good for what felt like my debut year, it was a really good entry. And then for a number of different reasons, and I never went back for years and years. Never did the Northwest. Not because I didn't want to, but it was a number of things. Paths didn't align. And I tried on a couple of occasions to get some things sorted out, but I always felt like the Northwest was a side project. I needed to do BSB, and I've done, in different years, done Suzuka 8 Hour and the Isle of Man TT, and even, the Manx and stuff like that with the Classic. And there's lots of other things in the year. So it's sort of like, I haven't felt like I needed to really push to get an entry. And the other thing is with the roads, I don't really want to be in a situation where I'm kind of pushing people. It needs to be natural. I feel like I want the mechanics to be there, I want the team to be there, I want the sponsors to be there, and then I'll be there together. We'll all go together, rather than people feel like they've got their arm turned to make them go. So, but last year was even more surprising because I would have been pleased to ride the Northwest and the TT last year, and Michael Dunlop was entered to do those two events, but I was sort of like, no, your job's to focus on BSB, so which I was comfortable with that arrangement. But and then at the 11th hour, Michael decided, in Michael fashion, to do other things. So the team were kind of left sort of, they'd committed to going to the Northwest. They had, accommodation, travel, sponsors, a load of things kind of already in place, and no rider. So they were like, well, Josh has done the Northwest. He's made it clear he wants to do it again, but hasn't done it for a number of years. So it sort of just worked. You know what I mean? I fit the place, and got asked if I would do the Northwest, and I ended up on the podium, and it may have been purely because of the likes of Hickey with his mechanical failure sort of thing, and other riders as well. But either way, I was in the race and I got on the podium, and I didn't feel like it was my best showing. I didn't feel similar to last year's BSB. The same problems that were in BSB were in fact highlighted at the Northwest. I went into it thinking, oh, well, you're not really banking the bike over on the edge of the tyre like you do at BSB. You're not screwing the throttle on and braking with loads of trail brake on the edge of the tyre. You're not doing all those sorts of short circuit racing aggressive sort of riding styles. So I thought at the Northwest the bike will probably be far more competitive. But one of the issues I had last year was grip related. So because it's a road surface, it's a public road, and it only highlighted the fact that the area I was complaining about in BSB was magnified at the Northwest. So I actually was like a bit annoyed. I was like, oh, well, the bit that I thought where it would be good, it was actually not that good. So anyway, I'm sort of going on a bit too much, but yeah, we had a good showing, but it wasn't my idea of the best that I could do in it. I didn't have confidence. It's a track and an event where you've got to kind of ride on confidence, not just on. And I feel like I was riding on knowledge and experience, not confidence. I was sort of like riding in. I know the bike can go around the corner this speed, and I know how to do it because of years and years of training myself to understand it. It wasn't like, oh, this is how the bike feels like it should be going around a corner. So yeah, I wasn't actually that pleased with the results, even though it was a podium. But yeah, so that brings us up to this year. So it'll be my third year at the Northwest, and I think the bike and the team and everything are far more on paper ready for the challenge. So hopefully we can be more competitive and bring that challenge to Glenn and give him a bit more of a bit more competition.
One either side, I reckon. That's it's just like, I got that side.
Pull his stickers off.
I was thinking. I was thinking more positively. He won't even be in front for us to need to pass him.
Good point. Yeah, 1-2 in whichever way round it goes for FHO Racing. That's up to you two. Which
once we get to Metropole, we'll sort it out.
Isn't it? Could quite easily end up that way.
You never know. The racing
for the team and the sponsors and everyone involved, it would be fantastic. But you can never predict motorbike racing. That's why it's interesting to watch,
especially not the road racing side. Yeah. There's so many variables. Coops, on the Northwest, what's your favourite part of the circuit?
You know what? I really like Magic Roundabout. What's it called?
Ballysally.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just enjoy going around the roundabout the wrong way.
There's just something wrong about it.
It's the right way for motorbikes because it's cambered. So it's just the wrong way for traffic.
But it gives me time to adjust my brake lever to back to how I want it for the next part of the lap. Because the run down to university is like I go for my brake and I'm panicking to try and find where it is. And then I just get into the roundabout and I give myself like a second just to click and then go again, if that makes sense.
I like it.
But because once you're in the roundabout, there's not much you can do with anybody, is there? No. You're just sort of all sat there, and then just sort of turn right and then fire out and go. There was many times when I would just one-handed through the roundabout, just getting the brake lever, because I run the brake lever so close, which is
you got child's hands.
Because I have girls' hands. It's even if it's one click out into Mavis Cross chicane, I'm uncomfortable. So I have a sort of like feel around the roundabout, and then and then I go. So I enjoy that part of it. It's like almost time to breathe.
Comfort blanket.
Yeah, the whole circuit's great. Like, don't get me wrong, but I do enjoy that. But I like the picture from it. I like the look of it, type thing, and all that. So, I've only been twice. Yeah, I feel quite experienced. And I think that's the good thing about the Northwest. You can, I feel like I've gained experience within 2 years to be able to understand it, like in the wet, in the dry, in a scenario where there's other people around you. Like my first year, I was quite I just rolled off and let them sort of have a go. And then the second year, I was like, right, I'm ready to get stuck into them. But yeah, it's a great triangle for us all to go racing at,
I'm going to ask you boys the same question as well, but in fact, I'll go that way first. I've got one last question that I'm going to ask the three of you about the Northwest. Favourite part for you, Pete?
For me, from the Metropole back to the start and finish. And actually the bit after the start, I don't really like the start and finish bit, but after the start and finish, the turn one and then Primrose, I think it's called, on the run down to York. All that whole coast road for me is just ace. Even with the Juniper chicane, which is a chicane, but anyway, the actual whole run, that particular run from Metropole where you turn left, through the left kink, into Church, under the railway bridge, through the next right, I'm not entirely sure what it's called, and then up through May Hill, and that run to Juniper is just ace. It flows really nice, and yeah, it's proper road racing for me, that is. And it's I've always enjoyed that section in particular, probably more so than anywhere else. It's always nice to go stupid 200 mile an hour plus down to University, but that's straight line stuff, and anyone can go in a straight line fast. It's the bits going through the corners that you got to get right, and that bit from the Metropole to start line and then start line back to York is proper. If you could fly through the original start finish as they used to, I think it'd be even better, wouldn't it? But
could you
it made
imagine
me a bit fast into turn one.
Into that right hander.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole section for me is ace.
Brilliant. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, it's similar. The Ballysally roundabout, I like when you're breaking in, you go over the rise in camber of the road and then change direction. Something's like rewarding about that sensation of the bike getting light over the crest of the road, and then you kind of go into the camber of the roundabout and you kind of sink in and get that feeling of comfort and support there. And then also what Hicky's saying along the coast road, as everyone knows, it's a far more racing area of the track. But for me, it's not so much any particular corner or what. It's on big bikes, it's not often that you really get the proper effect of slipstream. And on the TT, it's a time trial, so you're never racing really against somebody else. It's always on your own. So to race against other people and then have straights long enough that you actually get a proper slipstream again on 1,000cc bikes, because and it's such a buzz, when you you come onto a straight section at times and you might be fourth or fifth, and you get to the end and you're in first, and then the following straight, you're back to fifth again. It's I didn't do anything. I just happened to be in that place at that time, and that created that situation. So that's when it becomes, hold on. So you got to kind of reverse engineer it. So you go, if I want to be in front at the finish, I need to be in fifth at this corner for that. It's like...
He's thinking about that while he's going around Ballysally roundabout.
Yeah, just in his break.
But obviously, as the race goes on, things change. People's tyres wear differently. People's bikes are faster in different sections. So it's not so simple. You kind of got to go, oh, well, now that he's in front, that bike's fast in a straight line, so I need to be in front of him before we get to the coast road, because if someone else passes him before the coast road, then they'll get away. So it's like a cycling peloton. You got to you got to position yourself at the right time, otherwise there'll be a breakaway. It's really rewarding. It's more than just the circuit. There's lots of other stuff going on, which is good.
I find with the Northwest and the riders that I speak to, it's a lot about how you feel while you're doing it. It's not what you're actually doing, but it's the feeling that it gives you as a racer around that circuit, because you can't do it anywhere else. It's different at the TT. It's a different discipline, and it's not a mass start. And I find it fascinating. I went for the first time last year and it blew me away. Absolutely loved it. It's a completely different feeling to the TT. And I know I'm aware of the time, and I said to Bex that we'd be sort of half an hour, but I could talk to you boys all night about road racing. Because it fascinates me. It scares me, and I love it in equal measure, especially the TT. But we'll maybe do that later in the season, maybe when the TT's done. We'll have you boys back on for that. We keep it, so we don't exclude Coops then, do we? Final question, and it's not the hire car story.
Which hire car?
That's what I normally finish upon.
Coops, have you got a hire car story?
It wouldn't be me driving.
No, it never is. It's never anybody driving. No. Of all the people that do it, it's never them. It's like, I was in this car one time. But anyway, I'm going to avoid that question completely. Station corner. Full chat or roll?
Oh man, absolutely roll all day long. Not a chance. Quite a funny story actually. It involves Josh. So Josh was fastest on the Tuesday of first practice last year, and I seen a video of Josh going through station corner, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'm sure he went through there flat. You know what I mean? Like, the Ducati was just like, wow, like straight through. And I was like, at the time, I think I was like, back one in, you know. Admittedly, I have never gone through there flat. And even on the Super Twin, well, I could have gone through flat, but the thing revved that hard that I was worried I was going to break the engine. So even then, I rolled to save the engine. So stock bike, never been flat. Super bike, never been flat. Super Twin, it could be flat, but out of respect to engine, never been flat. And I've done all right, so I'm fine with saying I don't go flat.
I'm surprised you said you admitted to going back one, because we was in the van with James Hillier going round with Shannon doing the lap, Shannon's first time. So he's going through it. You go back one through here? He was like, nah. Shaz's face was like, really? He couldn't understand it. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, I've done it flat on various bikes. The Superbike is getting a little bit harder to do it flat because they're getting faster somehow. I don't quite know how they're getting faster, but they seem to be getting faster all the time. But yeah, I first did it flat in my second year. So my first year was 2014. I missed 2015 because I had some broken bones. And I went back in 16, and in 16 I did station flat on the Stocker and the Superbike, which I did
massive.
Which I
think that's well documented.
I didn't think anything of it at the time. Like, for me, I was just like, I think I could do it flat. And the next lap I did it flat, and I didn't really think anything of it. And then somebody else, one of the other riders somewhere, was talking about, I've just done station. One of the experienced riders said, I've just done station flat for the first time, and I was thinking, well, I've just done that. Like, it's in my second year. Like, I worked it out fairly quickly. Yeah. It's possible, if needed, you could do it. And I've done it most of the time. The Stockers, you could do it, although again, the Stockers are getting faster and faster now. And a lot of the time, it's not necessarily because the corner's too tight to do it flat. It's about weight distribution on the bike. And if you don't dip the throttle, or you don't have enough weight forwards, you actually can lose the front anyway. So sometimes it's not because it's not possible to do it, it's because it's actually safer to just roll a little bit and go again. And there's another corner just after the railway section. I don't know the next right. I'm not sure if you do Church through under the railway bridge. There's a next right-hander. Yeah. And there's been a few twins crashed there recently. And I was asked, in fact, we were both asked, me and Josh were with Mervyn last week, I think it was, talking about all sorts of things and what can we do to improve safety, or what do we think to this corner or that corner. And Mervyn was saying, I'm not entirely sure why. There's been quite a few riders crash here. And it seems to be on the twins, which is unusual because the twins are a slower bike. You can generally go through a flat out. There's quite a few bumps through that particular corner. And my comment was, from my experience of riding a twin, yes, you can do it flat out, but the problem with doing it flat out is all the weight's backwards. So you've got no weight on the front, and if you hit a bump, it goes away from you. All the other bikes are too fast to do it flat out, so you have to roll, in which case by rolling you've put the weight forwards, which means even if you hit the bump, it might be uncomfortable, but generally you've got the weight on there, so you've got more grip. And for me, that's why there's been a few riders crash, particularly on the Super Twins through that corner. And the same philosophy, physics can happen at station. You can do it flat out if you really want to or really have to. Is it always needed? Probably not. Does it really make that much difference? Probably not. Because you've got a big 2 mile straight after it where you can just slip through someone and pass them anyway. So yeah, it's possible. Do you always need to do it? No.
Josh?
I've definitely done it flat on 600.
Yep.
I think I've always done a comfort roll on the superbike, and I think if it was misrecognised as going through flat, I think it's possible because I don't really want to chop the throttle and upset the bike and maybe cause a bit of a weave. So my comfort roll might be so soft, it's enough to sort of give me and myself the idea that I've rolled a bit and I'm ready to go back to the throttle. But if you were maybe watching an onboard or something or heard the noise, it would sound like the bike didn't change note.
Yeah.
But it was enough to give myself peace of mind that I've rolled, little comfort roll, and then back to the throttle. So I don't think I've ever done the superbike. I don't know, but I don't think I've ever done the superbike flat, like to the stop.
No.
But yeah, but I endorse what's already been said there about the weighting of the bike. And
James Hillier said the same thing. It's nothing to do with being scared. There's nothing about. It's not commitment. It's literally settling the bike.
Yeah.
It's just that little roll off, and then probably at the apex, you're back on full gas anyway.
Before.
Yeah, you literally comfort roll to get it to turn, and then full gas.
I think this is where people make mistakes. Let's say if someone was trying to go flat out, and they'd get to the middle of the corner and go, I don't feel comfortable, and then shut the throttle, that would also be a negative point because you're changing the attitude of the bike right at the apex. Whereas, let's say, experienced guys like ourselves, we'll roll with anticipation because we know what the corner's supposed to feel like. So we'll roll a bit earlier, and it might not be by much, but it's enough that then when you go back to the throttle, it's actually before the apex. So you drive through the apex with a positive bike on the road, and it gives you confidence that everything's under control, and you don't ever get that like uncomfortable feelings that I've gone in here too quick with too much speed and I've got to roll off at the worst possible moment.
Puts you in a very difficult position going through there, getting on for 200 miles an hour, doesn't it?
Exactly.
There's that field and fence on you.
Yeah, it's not ideal. You're going to reach the railway line before you even get anything through
field
there.
like it's so soft.
Look, in my head, it's soft.
And that's all it needs.
That's all I need to know.
This has been absolutely fantastic. The time's flown. Coops, Hickey, Josh, thank you so much, gentlemen. If we get to do this later in the year, we'll talk about the TT, we'll talk about the Northwest and how the BMW F900R Cup's going, and the British Superbike Championship for you boys as well. But until then, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Cheers guys.